Hello and welcome to the Performers Who Pivot podcast, brought to you by your host Grace Francis. This podcast is for actors and performers who are navigating two careers at the same time. Maybe one performing arts career and one business to fall back on, or a business to have alongside your performing arts career, or perhaps you want to leave the performing arts industry altogether but don't want to retrain, so you are exploring how to progress using the skills you already have. Today's episode is sponsored by Dramed. Yes, that's my very own company sponsoring this episode. Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Performers Who Pivot podcast, where today we have special guest Ian Weichardt on. Ian, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. We have been having a little bit of a chat beforehand. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I am, as you said, Ian Weichardt. I am 33. I am a Yorkshire lad, and I am an actor, writer, and I run a children's entertainment business.
Amazing. So I came across Ian. I can't remember how we first came across, but I think both being children's activity providers, you have an entertainment business, I do a bit of entertainment, you run children's activity classes, as do I. I think we kind of cross paths online.
Yeah, being local to each other as well.
Yeah, we are. We just also happen to be in West London at the moment. So yeah, you're fully acting, like you are a working actor. You've had roles on, I remember when we last spoke, it was Doctors, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Doctors, the BBC.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amazing. And also you are actually creating some waves in the children's entertainment industry. I think you're doing an amazing job with what you do. Can you explain to us what you do? I know there's some magic involved.
Yeah, so it's basically, we provide children's entertainment for any age and any occasion. So we do a lot of, as you can imagine, birthday parties and Christmas parties and charity and business fun days, festivals, anything that involves children and needing entertained, basically. So it's a really great mix of magic and disco and dancing and bubbles and prizes and balloon modeling and puppet shows. So it's kind of fun, high energy, and we do parties specifically for like 1 to 2 year olds, and then we do a 3 to 7 year old party, and then 8 to 12 plus. So it's each age group has its own different variety of activities involved. So yeah, that's the crux of it.
I love that. And what I love about your work as well is that it's a speciality. It sounds like there was a lot of work that had to go into you developing your skill set to be able to provide the service that you do provide for children. And obviously that has gone alongside acting, which, as we all know, takes a lot of work in itself, the training and building the skill set to become an actor and a professional actor, and to kind of get to the place where you've got an agent and you're landing roles on BBC programs. Can you start with giving us or telling us a bit about your background, your cultural background, your upbringing? What did that look like, and how did that take you into performing arts?
Yeah, so I'm from York. Grew up with my mum and my dad and my sister. And then I took an interest in kind of performing when I was at school. So I remember doing like plays, and then I went to Stagecoach on a Saturday. I just really got involved in all the drama side of it. And then I went to trained as an actor at Birmingham School of Acting, which was a 3A honours, BA honours degree. And so I just fell in love with it, really. And then obviously leaving drama school, I did the big move to London, and carried on with my acting career. And then I was doing a lot of work in schools, and still do work in schools. I'm predominantly working with children with special educational needs and children with autism, on the autism spectrum. And then I kind of was helping my friends do I was doing entertaining at the schools and helping family friends with like their kids' birthdays and stuff. And so I kind of realized the skill set of being an actor and a performer, and working in schools, and kind of combining the two as an actor and working with children. And that's kind of how the kids' parties came along.
So did you get to a point where the acting was like your main thing, as a lot of actors do? They train, they fall into acting, and then they think, do you know what, I'm going to need something alongside this. Some people label it as something to fall back on, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think it's fine to have, you know, a business and some other skill, some other ways of earning money alongside acting.
Yeah, I think it's weird when you leave, or when you're at drama school, when you first leave, you do kind of think of it as this make it or break it, make it or you don't kind of thing. And then actually you realize the world of being an actor, the lucky few that are consistently working and earn big money from films, and they don't need to create income from elsewhere. You realize, oh, actually, is there a way of being an actor, staying an actor, and how can I use my skills to earn money on the side? Like when I first moved to London, so I was working in pubs for a while, which a lot of people do, which I loved. And then, like I say, it was working in the school. So you do, yeah, you it's trying to find these, and it's really hard actually for actors to find these flexible jobs that run alongside your acting. And when I realized that children's entertainment really does run alongside my more mainstream commercial acting, so to speak, because I still feel it's been a wonderful realization actually how what I think of being an actor it's changed over the course of time, and actually it's made me want different things from being a performer and an actor. And that's because of the children's entertainment, which has been such an eye-opener for me, and it's been really, really enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, I totally relate, and I think so much of us do. And I love when I have these conversations, how much of us have the realization of we need the flexible work. A lot of the flexible work is underpaid. It is often bar jobs, which you said you enjoy.
I did at the time, yeah. If you threw me behind the bar now, I might be like, oh no.
For me, it was call centers. I was stuck in a call center trying to make, and well, though
I did have a stint. I had a 6-month stint of doing some call center stuff, but it wasn't. It was. You would think actors would be really good at it, but I guess it's whatever you're doing. It's about believing in what you're doing and putting your heart and soul into it, you know. And I think when you're selling Google advertising spaces, if your heart's not in it, you can't sell it, you know.
No.
I think it comes down to that.
No, yeah, I agree. I did about a 6-month stint, but then I realized that I started to wonder, how can I still use my skills while I'm not acting? How can I still use these skills of performing arts? And I came to the realization that lending them to education was not only really rewarding, but also made sure that I was still singing, still doing drama. And when the auditions came, I was ready for the job. I would love to know, working for yourself, what do you do when a job comes in, when an acting job comes in? Because I think that's probably a stumbling block for a lot of performers who go off to build their own children's activity business. They are booking the parties, they're booking the class, they have their regular classes, but when an audition does come, what do you do at the moment? Have you got a team?
Yeah, so I've been quite lucky, touch wood, that we haven't had too many clashes, and I think that's predominantly because any filming work is predominantly during the week, has been during the week. Any auditions have been during the week. So when we're entertaining on the weekend, it hasn't actually impacted. However, I do have a team, a small team of entertainers. And we're all actors, all professional actors. So it's quite nice to know that we would be able to help each other out and still provide the service, allow everyone to fulfill their ambitions as an actor. But yeah, I guess it can get tricky. It can get fiddly. But I guess you do your best to make it work so everybody's really happy.
I think that's what a lot of performers who've considered building their own children's activity classes have been afraid of. Like, well, I want to be an actor, I want to be a performer, that's my priority, so I can't commit to building my own business or my own classes, because when an audition comes or when an acting job comes, that's what I'm going to go for. However, and I haven't shared this before, when I decided to build my own classes, I still very much stayed acting, and my work is weekday work. But I did get a job. I got a 3-month stint and a 6-month stint in different theatre shows. And I found that my clients are nurseries, quite often nurseries. They were really supportive. Actually, they liked the idea.
I was just going to say, because they understand the quality of service they're getting is because you are an actor, you are trained. And actually, people are understanding. And I think the most important thing is honesty and being able to communicate really well. So if something comes up, then like you say, your clients will be supportive of the work that you're doing. And I think that's really nice to know that they have your back.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. I'm glad that we've kind of touched on that, because that's the point that I've not really touched on so far with these conversations. And I've spoken to quite a few children's activity providers so far, because a lot of performers who are navigating 2 careers at the same time are doing work with children. So I'm glad that we got there. Can I ask you about your inspiration? Because I know you told us a bit about your upbringing, and I did have the thought of who inspired you then in that case. If you kind of found yourself in Stagecoach as a child, and your love for performing arts continued to grow from there, who was your initial role model? Like, where did that come from? Was it family? Was it someone outside? Was it someone external?
Yeah, a few people have asked me this, and people do ask, and I find it a little bit tricky to answer. Because when I think back, I can remember enjoying films like with Robin Williams. I used to love watching Robin Williams, and so actors like that, and I guess watching programs like that, and then I remember Mrs. Doubtfire. There's lots of films, but no one specific. I wanted to be like him. I wanted to be like her, or I guess I just loved that. I was a bit of a class clown as well at school, so there was this kind of element too. Because I guess every actor comes from a different viewpoint, and now I'm actually a class clown from an actual clown. And so I just enjoyed that kind of performing and making people laugh. So that's kind of what I just kept enjoying. So I guess that was quite an inspiring moment, I guess.
I love that. And I love that you kept hold of that. I feel like I was quite the class clown. When I look back on my childhood, I'm like, no, I was really funny. But there came a point where I grew up and I thought I have to I have to like conform and not be the clown. And so I'm like, where was your sense of humor gone, Grace? I need to tap into that, and I love that you hang on to that, because it's a real gift, making people laugh and giving yourself permission to be silly.
And it's great, I guess, that's my job now. Be silly.
I love it. I love it. I want to see you in action. Okay, so coming back to business and running your own children's activity business, and we know that you are growing an entertainment company, and I can vouch for just how amazing it looks and sounds. And I often, being in the same neighborhood as you, we will be on a group, where you've got your local Facebook groups, which is we've got communities, and someone will be asking for a party, and more and more we're seeing some recommendations for your service, which is. What is the name of your entertainment company?
Mr. Ruffles Parties. So we go as
Parties.
I am, and my team, we go as Mr. Ruffles, and now we've really excitedly taken on some female entertainers as well. So they will go as Miss Ruffles, and we take on different characters. So whether it's we've got our standard Mr. Ruffles and Miss Ruffles characters, but because, as you know, having kids, they love pirates, or whether it's mermaids, or whether it's princesses, we can come as different characters as well.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so we've touched on that's what you're growing, and I've heard that you have a team. I'd love to talk about the team element with you. Are you being a boss? Are you taking on the role of a boss, and really where are you with that? Because I know we can be at different places. It can be kind of calling on friends to step in and help, or you could be fully going down the avenue where you're like, okay, now I need to make sure that this is systemized and I have everything in place to kind of take on employees, and where are you with that?
Yeah, so I guess I'm very much the sort of person that, even though the job of entertaining has been silly and crazy, when it comes down to it, I'm very kind of systematic, and making sure everything is right from the word go. So when taking people on, making sure they're the right people, the right job, because I guess I've worked so hard to create a brand and a standard. So anything below that is unacceptable. So it's really important from the word go, when I take people on, that I know that they're right, that the training, I give them the fullest training to make sure that they're set up, ready to go to deliver the party at standard.
And being quite niche, working with magic and being a magician, you offering training, are you teaching people from scratch, or do they already have an interest in magic, and are they already at a certain level?
So it can be a mixture. So obviously everyone's got their own background. So the two elements are the performance background, and the other element is working with children. So if they have a performance background, and they've worked with children or are good with working with children, then they tick the two most important boxes. And obviously the magic element, people will come in, some will have more of an interest to the magic or a more of a background to have done magic before. But I guess if I look at all the different entertainers, they've all got slightly different levels of what they've done before and where they've come out. But the two key things is the working with children and the performance side of it.
And so
when it comes to magic, it's how you perform it. It's really how you perform it. Obviously, there's all the tricks and the behind the scenes type thing for the magic that you need to learn, but it's all in that performance element.
Yeah, that makes sense. And before we started recording the podcast, we were kind of touching on the topic of delegating and systemizing, like admin tasks and stuff like that, and how much that really does make a difference. And I was sharing, talking about forms, the online forms. You've got the job forms where you can create template contracts or photo release forms, all that stuff. And we also, and that kind of brought me to, I don't know where I was going with this actually, but I remember when I first started out, I signed up to I was trying to learn from whoever I could, and I found this Australian magician who has a membership. I
think I know him.
Yeah, it was
a.
Pardon?
What's his name? I think
I can't remember, but I signed up and there was really useful content on there. And like he kind of showed you everything from like running a business and an entertainment business. And obviously his skill set, his field was magic, but it very much tied into a children's activity business. And he's doing amazing. Like he's really systemized his business. He's gone from running a successful entertainment company that was built around magic, and then creating like an online platform where others from all over the world can sign up. And
I've seen, and also taking part in some of the. I'm trying to think of his name. I think is it Ken?
Ken, yeah, it is Ken. Okay. Ken, yeah. Well, I'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah, and it is great. That's one thing I do love about the world that we're in, providing stuff for magic or entertainment. Everyone seems quite supportive to share their knowledge. And I know there's a competing element like in business, but everyone really likes to share their information that they've learned. And I like that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so do I. And I think it's really important, actually. I think I think if we look past the competing element, you realize that there's so much more to benefit from sharing for everyone, for each other. And
yeah, it just makes the industry stronger, and you end up really focusing on what's important and trying to deliver the best entertainment, whatever it is, whether it's a toddler class singing or magic or big events. It just strengthens the industry, and it really focuses on and you start to look at what other people are doing and how you can do something similar, and it's really helpful. It's really
helpful. Have you thought about where you're going with the acting and the business? Like, what are your goals?
Yeah, it's funny, goals, because I like to think about goals. I like to set goals. And it's I think for me, I want to be in terms of the Mr. Ruffles parties. I want to be able to deliver as much entertainment and as many parties to as many people as possible. I believe that the product that we've got, the parties that we do, are amazing, and everyone's super enjoying them. So it'd just be great to get to do more and more and more. And then also, I would love to set up my own theatre school and teach acting to kids as well. I think that would be a lovely thing to do. I would love to create. I've got a long list of things I'd love to create theatre shows. So we do, as well as the parties we do. I go off to festivals and do a show like we did. Last summer I did in Wales. It was the Summer of Smiles festival, and so I did like a 1 hour performance to hundreds of kids. So I'd like to kind of keep developing and keep creating different shows and putting on theatre shows, and maybe even take some of our work digital. So that's kind of the children's entertainment side. And then with my acting, I've the last couple of years started writing, and I got a nice piece published it's in the process of being published at the moment. And so I want to keep writing, keep trying to create my own projects. I don't know when I'm going to find time to do all this, but and I think that's one thing as an actor. I think you realize when you first start out, performing in other people's stories are great, and then as you get older, you then start to have a few stories to tell of yourself. And I think and it helps having set up a business, because it allows you to feel a bit more empowered, and more in control of your own destiny. So then you then start to think about your acting and what projects you could do for that, and what writing you could do, and so kind of I just want to keep creating and keep getting better and better with what I want to do. Sorry, that's a waffly answer.
No, I like that, and I love that you said you like goals and you like setting goals. So I really want to come back to that, but before we do, can you tell us your biggest achievements to date? It can be in any area of life, it can be all areas of life.
I think on a personal level, when I think about achievements, I just feel really happy and lucky to friends and family and the people that I've got around me and the experiences that I've created with them. I have to say that they are, they're some of the best highlights of my life, and the most important over anything, really, the people you have around you. And I guess from a career point of view, a couple of standout things would be when I performed in the West End a couple of years back, which was in Miser, which was an Olivier-nominated comedy, which was so that was it really is a dream come true when you get to go on the stage in the West End, and you always hold on to and it was amazing. And then also similar to yourself, some of the TV work that I've done, and the most recent Doctors episode where I played a victim of domestic abuse. The role was just so great to do, and the story was so important. And I also kind of raised some money for a charity, because male victims are often overlooked, so it was a charity, so I raised some money behind that. So it was nice to kind of do something and tell a story that really meant something, and get behind that. And similar to yourself, setting up Mr. Ruffles Parties is, it feels like a dream, to have a business where people love what you're delivering. We do these parties week in, week out, and honestly, it just gets better and better to see so many smiling, happy families, kids. I just love it. I just love it, and it makes me feel so happy. And I really feel that this is, when people talk about a big break in terms of the acting, I genuinely feel that what I've been able to create with Mr. Ruffles Parties has been my big break, and I just want to keep delivering that.
I love that, and I can totally relate, like the feeling of, I mean, I think it's really powerful being able to do something for yourself and having not put your life and dreams in someone else's hands, which is quite often how it feels when you first go into acting, when you leave. I mean, like you, I did a BA at university, and then it became like, okay, now my life, my career is in someone else's hands, but being able to take that back and create something is
exactly, that's what it is. Very much you can feel a bit like a puppet, as an actor, going to this audition, waiting for the phone call, and as soon as, and I think that's what could be, and maybe is, it's a long time since I went to drama school, but that taking control of your career and realizing how you can do that. And I think that's why a lot of people give it up, actually, because I think a lot of people are quite unhappy with what the industry is, how it's maybe necessarily treated them, or they might have felt it hasn't been successful for them. But I think a lot of it comes down with how you don't feel in control of the work that you're doing, the work that's coming in, your career, and if you're able to do that, it's not easy. Then you start to feel a bit better about it all, I think.
It isn't easy. So I have so many questions really quickly. What do you do when it does feel like it's a lot and you're feeling low and it just feels a bit much? Being a human being, I'm assuming you have those moments where it's just like, how do you take care of yourself?
I guess like you said about goes down to the core things of trying to keep healthy, trying to look after yourself, enjoying your friends, enjoying your family, kind of going back to the bare bones of I trying to realize what it is that makes you happy, and try to put everything in perspective as well. Actually, try to like the bigger picture, because sometimes you can get overwhelmed by certain things, or get a bit down and out by things, and then actually just taking 10 steps back and realizing, oh, actually it's not really, it's you're not necessarily, you might be worrying about nothing, just trying to take the bigger picture.
I love that. So Ian Weichardt is 86 years old, or a lovely ripe old age, whatever number you can imagine. What has he achieved? Where is he? How is he feeling? What's he looking at right now? Can you tell us?
I knew you was going to ask this. It's so hard. It's really hard. I think when I was 10 years ago, I didn't quite know. It's only recently where I feel like I know what the 10 years might look like. But 86, I would like to have all my family and friends around me, and we're laughing and we're joking. And what will I have achieved? To look back and think I've been able to entertain, make as many people laugh, and also educate. I don't know, I'm laughing at that, but it's because of the work that I do in schools. And there's a lot of other stuff I want to do as well within schools. Like I'm part of the LGBT plus community, and there's lots of work that I'd like to do with theatre and schools to help that community and help children. And so I would like to think some of the things that I still have yet to achieve, that they will have been achieved, and I've been able to kind of put a dent into helping the world in a better place. It sounds a bit much, but that's kind of what I'd like to think when I'm old.
That. I love that you're surrounded by friends, and that's something that's kind of come out quite strong in this conversation. The later part of this conversation is just how important your relationships are, and they are massively important. And as someone who had like a horrible friendship heartbreak 3 years ago, which I had to like publicly share on Instagram as to how heartbroken I was to losing my best friend, it really made me explore relationships and friendships, particularly friendships, because I feel like the romantic relationships get a lot of press, but the friendships don't so much. And with me exploring that, I've realized just that, you know, the better your relationships, the longer you live, the better your relationships, the healthier you are. Like, they are so key.
Yeah, it's so important, you know. And like I said, I do try to, and it was actually running your own business and having, like we both do, having so much on it. It's quite easy to get swept away and to not you know, relationships. You need to really invest in friendships and give them time. So I like to try and balance everything out, but that's not always possible. But I like to kind of go back to and making sure that I am enjoying my friends as much as I should be doing.
Yeah, and it's work, because you do run the risk of being quite isolated when you're taking all of that on. So it's really important. I think I'd probably use that as a soundbite for this podcast. And then finally, can you just tell us how you achieve your goals? You said you like goal setting. I love goal setting, and I mean vision boards. I mean, I've read loads of self-help books on achieving goals, listening to people who I really admire. I regularly journal. I have planners. How do you set your goals?
Well, that sounds great. What you do, and I like, oh, I want to do that. I want to plan like that. And I think the idea of planning and goals, I think for me, is that sometimes can be a bit loose in terms of like, oh, I'd like to, because really the ideal is you'd say, what do I want to achieve this year? What do I want to achieve in 5 years? What's 10 years? And I guess, and then what do I want to achieve this month? So I like to be all rigid with it, but I don't actually do it all rigid like that. So I just try to think about, sometimes if it's even just in your head, you know, about, you know, this is what I'd like to achieve. And again, trying to allocate time to set those goals, whether it is mentally or literally physically writing them down. And I do sometimes obviously write these goals down. I want to achieve this. And I know some people can be really on it in terms of and it's funny, I guess you've got to be true to yourself as well with that, because some people love setting goals and being really rigid. I want to achieve this by this and this, and then some people don't set goals at all. So I feel like I'm little bit of an in between, but then someone who could meet me and say, well, actually, you set so many goals. So it really depends. Yeah, I'd like to be a bit more structured maybe about how I approach my goals maybe.
Okay, can you tell us what your writing project was recently? That sounded really interesting.
Yeah, so it's there's a fantastic writer, director, performer, producer called Ricky Beadle Blair.
Oh, I love him.
Yes. And he's publishing an anthology of books represented, and the books are full of speeches. One looking at LGBTQIA+, another one looking at BAME artists, and another one at working class. So these groups probably being unrepresented in terms of what speeches, when I say speeches in plays, in dramas, for maybe drama school students to perform, to write. So I wrote a piece for the LGBTQIA+ book, and that was looking at friendships, and so that is going to be published. It all got a little bit halted due to COVID and bits and pieces, like everything. So that should all be happening this year, which is quite exciting. So yeah, it was nice to, it's only been the last couple of years that I've started the writing. But again, that's another way of kind of taking control and making your own work.
That's very exciting. Ricky Beadle-Blair is a game changer, an absolute pioneer in what he does. And I've wanted to work with him for years. So that is massive. Is there a link to this book?
Yeah, so it's being published at the moment. So there isn't a link to the book just yet, but I will let you know.
Please do. Please do. And as we're coming to the end, which I think has been an amazing conversation, how can we support you? How can we support your work? How can we find out what you're doing?
So I guess if it's social media, you can follow Mr. Ruffles Parties at Instagram or Facebook. And Ruffles is as you spell it, RUFFLES. Or if you want to follow my work as an actor, as a writer, then it's Twitter, Ian Weichardt.
Amazing.